Push the start streaming button. Button.
I'm waiting for my cue.
Welcome to PolyCast, a civilization podcast focused on game strategy.
CanusAlbinus.
Makahlua.
TheMeInTeam.
MegaBearsFan.
Welcome to the 344th episode of PolyCast. Hang on, let me see. I put my name tag down here somewhere. Q-Nagd. Oh wait, no, that's Dan Q. I'm Dan Q, and I'm joined by regular co-hosts. Let me see here. MegaBearsFan.
This Dan Q person sounds familiar.
TheMeInTeam.
Betrayal.
And Makahlua. No, I mean Makahlua. Ha!
Oh, well, at least this new guy knows how to keep with tradition.
And regular co-host CanusAlbinus.
Welcome to the new era where everything is not as good.
Well, I have to admit, having the audio cues in here so feels like you're inside the episode, like you're listening to the episode, but you're recording the episode is kind of weird. Cool, but weird.
Yeah.
That used to be the case on this show long ago using previous technology, and now what's old is new again.
Indeed.
I guess.
We did that at one point?
Yes, we did.
ago.
You must have been
Years
there,
ago.
Rocky.
It was like
What?
episode 111 or so.
Oh, okay. If it was
first-
just a couple of episodes, I see why my brain is like, what?
It was like the first season of first episode of the first season after Civ 5 came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I vaguely remember it.
And what do you know? I vaguely remember being on the show.
It's been a while. So, now that we've actually started recording things with the audio in play, there's a reason for this. And the reason is I'm completely overworked, and there's a long list of things that I have to deal with. If you may have noticed, the last couple episodes did come out very late in their intended time frame. There was at least a 5-day delay on both of them, which is not ideal for anybody involved, because that means it was a 12-day wait between recording and release, which is nonsense. Add to that the fact that the editing is no longer something I can easily do without staying up until 5 in the morning, because I'm spending half of my days at the hospital and the other half in the office doing the work that I have to do, and I get 2 hours at home every night. It's very difficult to do 5 hours of editing. So things are changing here at the PolyCast. I didn't want to close the show because it's important to everybody, but I can't do what Dan used to do and what I have been doing for the first part of the year. Things have just changed too much for me. So,
Well, I understand needing to make changes like that. When PolyCast went to the live format, that was out of my own necessity as well, and not wanting to end the show. So the show will adapt as the people behind it adapt, and we continue to sieve on. Yay!
I will say the production value will probably decrease a little bit because I won't be able to go in there and take out all the ums, ahs, and ers. But
Well,
that
we should
actually
just not
makes it
say them.
well.
So you want us to say them more with more emphasis? Then is what you're saying, because they're going to stay in there, and you want it to sound like it's purposeful. Okay, I've made that note. Okay.
Every episode from now on shall be titled,
It's not going to be that big a deal because I was reading a lot of things about podcasting, and there are different types of podcasts based on what they're doing, and the professional podcasts are the ones that have to do all the editing to get rid of all that stuff. And last time I checked, we're not a professional podcast. We are a hobbyist podcast.
Wait, are you saying that we're
Whoa.
not getting a 10% raise this year?
I'll give you 100% raise this year, but it's not going to mean anything.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
used to
not
give you
10%.
more. Phil,
We're
I
going
used
on
to give you.
strike.
I don't know what this is. I used to give a lot more meaningless raises than this, at higher percentages with even less output. And
Well, yeah, but that was due to the conditions of the show at the time.
man, I don't know.
And math, X% of 0 is still 0.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Professor
good
Mackey.
things.
That's right.
We needed a
Primer.
professor for that, a fake professor at that, but we needed a professor to point that out to us. Oh dear. Okay.
I wonder which of us did the most math back in our days.
Probably you, because you did
Yeah.
business and economics stuff.
Oh, the harder stuff was when I was still in engineering, though.
Oh, well,
For sure.
100%.
Okay, yeah, well, you've 100% you've done more than
I
we
mean,
did.
I did computer science, but that's more theoretical math
Mhm.
than actual math.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what's in that, so.
Computer science is
how high it takes
basically
you.
you take all of the words that do something in computer talk and you make them into a math equation. So a lot less numbers
Okay.
and a lot more letters.
I think we
Alright,
should all
so-
get T-shirts. We should all get T-shirts that say math. Been there, done that.
It's kind of like accounting in that way, where accounting is actually all law, but then you do some basic math in applying it, and people think it's all math for some reason.
Doing the Minimax algorithm was fun. That was a lot of math. But anyway,
There you go.
let's move on.
Sorry for the distraction. Festive.
So the best distraction is a bunch of giant real world maps. This is over on Polygon. One of their editors is really it's called The Joy of Civilization 6 Giant Real World Maps, because now that we do have the world builder, now the map makers can really get going. So expect every fantasy series ever to have their maps in soon. Probably expect more detailed real world maps and more focus. Like, let me give you the map of my country with actual details instead of the 5 hexes it takes up on a civ map, that kind of thing.
I'm
Yeah,
still
he's-
looking forward to going to World Builder and put iron beside my capital when I don't have it, so I don't have to find it. That would be great.
I don't think that works in multiplayer.
Well, have we tried it?
Wait, what did you say? Forward settle Dan? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh dear.
I'm going to add iron to myself and take the iron away from you, and you can forget about niter and oil, and you can forget about diamonds too. No more diamonds.
Yeah, this is why we forward settle and rush out Dan then, because then we have those resources again.
Oh, I thought you were going to say this is why they got rid of World Builder from
That too.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
It's all
Fair enough.
Dan's fault.
No way. In responsible hands, World Builder was the only way to make organized MP games fair back in the day.
I mean, Dan is actually mentioned in the article and quoted. Did they actually fix his byline though? Because when it first came out, it said he is the host of PolyCast, and on this list it still says that.
Yes,
Well,
I have.
he is technically a host at the moment, isn't he?
It says he is a host of, not
Yeah, it
the-
didn't say
yeah.
he's the lead co-host or something.
It just mentioned he's been writing blogs and podcasting about Civ for the past 20 years, which is accurate.
Which is true because of One More Turn. One More Turn.
Yeah. Thank you. And it does say that I am a host of PolyCast. Yes, it never actually said that I am a regular co-host or was a regular co-host, and I am a host on the episode that we're talking about it. So technically,
Yeah.
but yes, I was approached.
not wrong.
Yes, I was approached by the author of this article, Colin Campbell, to talk about this and the introduction of World Builder and maps. And I'm going to quote myself. This is fantastic. I like this. I like this. I've been waiting for this for so long, and I just had to become a guest in order to be able to do it.
Dear.
Mm.
Dan's
my-
ego is now no longer fits in Canada.
It's the long play. It was the long play. I had said that the most important thing about maps is replayability. A randomly generated map is different every time, but a handcrafted map is always the same shape. But you can play as different civilizations, or start in different locations, or give yourself different challenges. Even though it's the same map, the players are different. They have different strengths and weaknesses based on where they're starting or the actions they take. Even if you're the same civilization and you're in the same spot again and again, you can make different choices based on where you settle and who you decide to fight in wars. And yes, who you decide to fight in wars, that means when you play Civilization, if you're playing Civilization properly, you will fight in a war. Wait, what?
Yes.
That
Dan is correct.
Oh dear.
I can tell because he agrees with me.
and I also said, and it was alluded to earlier in talking about this, that really people are just scratching the surface of the capability of World Builder. I think it's probably going to take the better part of a year to be able to see its real potential.
I haven't heard from the ModCast guys about it yet, but I think they're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I would expect so. I think it's also going to make it easier for people to jump into modding if they want to, when they know it's something that's officially supported, number one, and it's something that they can get ready access to. And it's not like I have to go back to school to learn how to mod this. It's not like what software do I need to do? And do I need to read a guide? I mean, you can always read a guide if you want, but I think it makes it more accessible for people who want to do something simple to test the waters. And if they get comfortable with that, then maybe they'll create their own mods or they'll join an existing mod on something. And even though I play very few mods, I actually haven't played any for Civilization 6. And now that Canada is the game, why would I even bother? Kidding. And it's just making the longevity of the game that much more while we wait for whatever the next thing is.
You could
Which is
mod them to actually be a good Civ to play.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next thing, and this is a brief aside because we're probably going to talk about it on the next episode, which I will not be on, and this will probably guarantee that I will not be on the next episode. Sorry, the next Civilization 7 is actually Humankind. Sorry. 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 I jumped the gun there a little bit. My bad.
There is a reason we're not talking about that today, and that is because it's not been announced long enough for us to have made a full decision about it. So expect that discussion in 2 weeks.
This article also talked to an quote-unquote actual modder of Civ, but it also talked about Campbell's own experience with real-world maps. And it's a nice addition to the game, and I think a lot of people would agree. Where was that when the game first came out? But better late than never.
A good question. I think it was probably in the, let's make sure the game actually works pile before we worry about this. I don't know why it took 2 DLCs to do it, but
the game isn't quite working yet. Hey, let's release the World Builder. We'll make the modders fix it for us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. They were trying to avoid that situation, but also maybe they knew how many DLC they wanted to do and wanted to make sure they had support for most things first. I don't know. Just a theory.
Yeah, I mean, I said I'm very much assuming it is more user-friendly than what you would have to do before that in order to do much of anything with
yeah, if it's like what I remember originally from Civ 5, yeah, they had to basically crack into the EXE or something to make modding available early on before an official thing was officially given. Yeah, there's a good sentence in English.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying before the official thing was a fish, and I was thinking, wow, this is we're going. I mean, the Earth is mostly water, so I think I get where Mackey's going with this. Okay, the official thing is mostly fish. I'm like, what kind of fish? Is it grilled? Is it baked? Is it fried?
Yes.
I think Dan needs to have lunch soon. That's what it sounds like to me.
No one else smells that burning fish?
What a tasty treat.
Yeah, but the threshold for being able to mod anything, much less just a simple map in the World Builder, was higher in the beginning of Civ 5 than it has been until now. Because only people who had dedicated programming skills basically could make tools to get in to change maps. But now we have World Builder, and anybody who's got some spare time and a little bit of patience could build a map of their own, maybe a map of somewhere near where they live. People want more higher detail maps of certain areas of the world. Maybe somebody wants to do an islands map for like the South Pacific, or all sorts of things are now open because there's always this threshold, or not the threshold's not the right word, but there's like a certain amount of there was before now a certain amount of technical ability versus the kind of people who would have the diverse and maybe a little bit more obscure interests in historical places, who maybe wanted to make a map but didn't have the technical skills. Now the World Builder's here. I haven't used it, so I don't know if it's ease of use, but it's still easier than what you would have had to do to make a map prior to a few weeks ago.
I think you're getting at barrier to entry.
Thank you.
A big difference, is from what I recall in Civ 5, you actually had to have a separate application in order to do any modding at all, whether it was the map builder or the fire tuner. and now it's just in the game. So like everybody can see it, whereas before, like you kind of had to know that those tools were there, to go looking for them and download them and install them and then run them. Whereas now it's just, oh, you boot up the game, you're going through the menus. Hey, what's this world builder thing? Oh my gosh, now there's a new modder out there.
Yeah, like it was in Civilization 4, as I recall. This is a much better integration of this program.
Well, in Civ 4, you could do it during a game.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
just press
that's not
Control-
problematic.
Yeah, what was it? Control W, I think, or something like that. And it would just bring up the map builder in the middle of a game. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I do want iron.
Exactly. Thank you. That's the,
I didn't spawn with iron. Oh, now I did.
I don't think you can do that in Civ 6. I think
No.
you have to be outside of a game to do it.
And if people listening are thinking, oh, I don't have time to make a mod for myself, then you can make the mod for Canus because he doesn't have the time.
Well, I'm glad that my inability to enjoy myself in regular life is now a funny joke, but
And also another note is that if you actually have the foresight to like somehow record the random seed and map seed of every game you start up, you could, I think, actually take that random seed and import it into the map builder and then modify a map. So if there's a map that you like, a randomly generated map, and you just, are like, oh, I just want to change a few things, that might make this more interesting, you can do that.
It is nice in the game setup right from the beginning that it will tell you the seed of the map, yes, as opposed to having to try to figure it out through some other means. So, hey, talk about replayability and making some different choices.
I do really wish that you could still see that once the game has begun. Like, I wish they would just like list that along with like all the other map settings and game options. So there's something Firaxis for you to do for the next patch, maybe, because there are times where you start a game and then you realize, oh, I really like this map. I want to play this map again with like a different starting position or whatever, but you can't, and they don't even have the turn 0 save anymore. Like, I really miss that from Civ 5.
they don't? I thought they still did have that.
I don't ever see it unless it's like hidden in a different place. I don't think so. I think they just keep the last X number of autosaves and there is no turn 1 or turn 0 save. I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Someone correct me if I am.
No, I don't think there is a turn 0 autosave anymore. When you have the autosave on for every turn, I think the first one is 1.
Right, but then if it's every 5 turns or whatever, by the time you get up to turn 6 or 7, that turn 1 save is gone. Whereas in Civ 5, and I think also in Civ 4, like they just kept it. Like it was always there for every game you played.
Yes.
Definitely Civ 4.
In Civ 5, it was the most recent new game you played. It was kept.
I mean, there's also with the autosave, if you go into the directory, there's also the PREV for the previous folder. So you could have not your most recent game, but the most recent game before that. It will also have whatever were the last set of autosaves in there. But yes, if you're looking for something back on turn 0 or turn 1 and you've progressed all the way to turn 50, 70, whatever, then even if it was the game before the game that you last played, that autosave is going to be long gone.
Which is a shame.
I think what Firaxis is saying, you got to stop living in the past.
Yeah, no more save scumming.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No more far back
more
saves coming.
conscious effort from now on to save that turn 0 autosave, because I write those strategy guides for the blog and I keep forgetting to do that, and there are so many situations where like, oh, I want to go back and try something different, and I used to be able to do it trivially with Civ 5, and in Civ 6 I need to go out of my way to make sure that I remember to allow myself to do that.
Is this the part of the show where we plug MegaBearsFan.net?
Sure, MegaBearsFan.net.
I mean, it's perfectly fair to mention it because it's .net, only .nets, only.
Is that actually the website?
Yes, it is.
Oh, cool! I did not know the actual website.
Candace thought I was just making it up.
He thought he was just going back to the PolyCast.net joke.
Thank you, Mackie. I like that when people are listening to a show, or when you're watching a television show and there's an advertisement, particularly if it's on demand on a cable service, and they advertise the show that you are currently watching, and it's like, really, I had no idea. I had no idea.
All the time. What the hell?
I
Wait,
always
you
enjoy
still watch TV?
I always enjoy it. Well, I don't watch TV myself, but I have to spend time with my grandma sometimes, and she likes to watch Food Network. And a lot of times they'll just be like, "Oh, Restaurant Impossible commercial. Oh, Restaurant Impossible commercial. Oh, we're watching Restaurant Impossible."
Well, even if you don't watch it on your TV, if you watch it on your computer, your tablet, or whatever, on those traditional television networks, and they put them on their website, and you can watch them. Those ads, they're advertising the show you're currently watching, probably at least once. It's like, really? So there we go.
It becomes oppressive when it's 15 to 30% of the advertisement block is the show you're already watching.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, did you know you're listening to the PolyCast.net?
Seems pretty inefficient use of advertising funds too.
Or a translation, we couldn't sell this spot to an advertiser, so we're just going to plug our own stuff, even if it's exactly what you're watching. Because the intern in charge of this put a rotation of ads in because they're like, I don't get paid for this.
I totally get self-promotion when you can't sell
plausible.
the space, but promote another show at least.
I know that cable television and network television even will very frequently, well, at least in my experience, every time you have a commercial break, the first commercial after the exit and the first commercial after the exit, before the return, are network-based stuff.
Yeah, the fast forward on my DVR is perfectly set to where I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, look, I just skipped all the commercials. Weren't we talking about Civ at one point?
Yeah,
Speaking of skipping, I don't know.
There
That's
is
gonna
no
transition
audio
us
cue.
to the next topic.
There are
Question
no
mark?
audio cues between topics.
Ah, dang it.
Oh, okay.
Except for Dan's segue.
Well, I could put them in, but I just wanted to try
Question
and
mark?
not flood the channel.
Oh, I guess.
Oh, I see.
Well-
Well, as long as we build a canal, we'll be okay.
This isn't the one I would want to use. Speaking of flooding the channel, to transition to.
Yeah.
So we just won't do that. Article from PC Gaming: Mozambique peace accord signing featured Civ 4's theme song. So this is a good bit of real life news. Although it's unfortunate it was an issue in the first place, but it's good news. Mozambique did sign a peace accord IRL, and they played Baba Yetu from Civ 4's intro by Christopher Tin during that, which is kind of cool.
It looked like they actually had like an orchestra playing it on site,
Yeah.
which to me is pretty amazing.
Yes. The person who tweeted about this Stephen Glover, who, according to his Twitter account, is a development economist in agriculture in Mozambique. While the signing took place, an orchestra and choir performed a song called Baba Yetu, a game that referenced Civilization 4, saying a game that is generally not associated with peace but conquest and warfare.
Well,
He's not wrong.
But the song is literally the most peaceful song out there.
yeah,
So.
the song itself
Yeah.
is peaceful, even though it's associated to a warlike game.
I mean, in principle, Civ 4 doesn't have to be war, but
I
it's
never
Yeah.
fought. I didn't do Conquest in Civ 4, but I also played on Settler, so. But apparently they've been having military violence since 1993. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to see this happen. There are missionaries from our church that are living there and working, so we know people who are there, and it's been dangerous for them.
It's always nice when a slice of something from entertainment can be used for something that is anything but entertainment in an appropriate and a positive way, including the fact that this was on social media. It was something positive on social media.
There's
I'm
no
all for
such
that.
thing.
Wow, I'm pretty sure this is an example of that, but it is few and far between. Just like accords like this in real life are few and far between, so it is something worth celebrating.
Well, there was one in Colombia a little while ago. That one was pretty good too.
But they didn't play Baba Yetu, so
Well, it didn't make sense for them to because it's not in Swahili, or because it is in Swahili and they don't speak it.
I could have translated it. I have no idea.
Could do a lot of things.
I
That's
Dan's
true.
just reaching.
I imagine if it was in Spanish, they would have had a choice. But then again, I bet there's not a whole lot of Swahili modern music out there. I may be showing my ignorance of Africa, but I don't know. I've never heard of any other Swahili song that has modern instrumentation, but I've also never looked. So, yeah, I'm gonna look like an idiot in about a week.
You just have to like find out that technically they have fewer or something, and then just rest on that, and you'll be okay.
I mean, the population of Swahili speakers is lower, so I don't
Yeah.
know. I also don't know the
Statistically, it's
names of
likely.
any. I don't know the names of any Japanese or Spanish songs either. So, although to be fair, I don't know any German or British either. I actually know very little about music that isn't directly related to video games.
I was going to say you probably knew the title of a Korean song, but no, Canus and pop culture, not necessarily.
Well, I do know Gangnam Style, but
Okay, you did.
You know, I was gonna say that, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna stay silent. I'm gonna stay silent. I already did the really awkward segue into this topic. Maybe I should just stay out of it.
I don't think they would play that at a piece of card. Although
They
would
played
be
it at the
amazing.
Olympics. Come on.
well, other things they've played at the Olympics include the Borat version of the Kazakh national anthem.
Yeah, that was a
So-
little. Speaking of awkward,
Was it Kazakh or was it Uzbek?
might
don't
have been
remember.
Uzbek.
I don't
or-
remember which country he's supposed to have been from.
No, it's I think Kazakhstan, but
That sounds right. Yes.
I haven't
consider.
actually seen the movie, so I don't know.
I thought it was a fictional country.
No, it's real.
It's a real country, and the tourism industry there boomed because of that movie. And for a little while, they were very upset, and then they realized, hey, wait a minute, we're making money from this. Just go with it.
People know we exist now, and we get tourism money. Just shut up and go along with it.
This is episode going to be titled PolyCast episode 344 Back to School. We need to
Just
Learn
shut
some-
up and go with it.
we need to learn some things.
I'm gonna mark that down.
It's like,
Just shut up and go with it.
Oh, I thought it was going to be back to school. Okay. That's probably more
current
humorous.
co-host bias.
Well, they may not be going back to school, but top strategy game devs are going to PAX West at the end of the month, and there, Rock Paper Shotgun is planning on doing an interview with Ed Beach, the lead designer of Civilization 6. So, watch out for that.
Yeah, I like how Ed is mentioned alongside some other people, including the narrative director for a certain game I might have referred to earlier that's not being talked about on this episode. It's just that they're going to be interviewing a panel of strategy gaming's leading lights. I just want to troll this and be when the panel starts. We didn't actually say we're going to talk to them about games. We were just bringing them together to talk about other things. So, Coke or Pepsi?
I'm most surprised that they called in somebody from Imperator Rome instead of from a better game that Paradox does. I mean,
Maybe
Imperator
guess it was
Rome.
talk
'cause
about
it's
all the
newer?
things they're planning on fixing.
Imperator Rome is widely known as the worst Paradox interactive title game ever because it was just that bad.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough release. And
Well,
from my
maybe
he's-
understanding, it's still
well,
bad.
I mean,
Maybe he's going to talk about lessons learned.
the music was DLC. I mean, how bad can you get?
That's just being greedy. That has nothing to do with the quality of the game.
Oh,
Well,
the quality of the
it
game
does
was
make
bad
the game
too.
worse.
It was like EU4,
Yeah.
but minus all the features and using the old version of the Monarch Point system that had actually less ways to influence it than EU4 did at the beginning.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I
were
didn't
two-
actually get it.
There were two other things I got from this development. First off was frowny face when I read the word Firefly and it wasn't in the context that I wanted. Second of all, these interviews are going to be conducted by Ghostus, supposedly their first fully spectral staff writer. But my favorite part about what he's doing is not interviewing it, where it says on Monday he'll be challenging artists, designers, and passing strangers to beat him at drawing freehand at MS Paint. And I thought, okay, I don't know why I want to see that.
I
Seeing capable artists reduced to MS Paint is what you want to see?
Come for the Microsoft Paint tournament. Stay for the developer interviews. Maybe.
There you go.
I mean, it's not like they're also doing a Dwarf Fortress playthrough with its creator and discussing the erotic world of vampires or discussing the history of Jason Statham in video games.
Mackie heard Dwarf Fortress.
Actually getting Cody to play his own game. Hell, hold up a minute.
That last one sounds like a very, very important topic in the field of video games.
Jason Statham in games.
I'll pretend I'll know who that is.
This is some seriously academic stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what Ed Beach is actually going to be talking about. This announcement doesn't, I don't think, say anything about his topics. So I have no idea if he's going to be talking about Civ or about strategy gaming in general or other projects that he may have or is or will be working on. I'm not seeing any of that in
Yes.
this. So
yes.
I was going to say, having been to multiple of this type of convention, not gaming specifically, but conventions involving panels of people across the industry, of any kind of industry, although in my case it was more to do with animal health issues, but usually they talk in general terms about their strategies and their ways of dealing with problems. Specifically, they're most likely going to be answering questions like, why do you do this in your game while these other guys do something else?
I'm probably doing a post-mortem for some of the games they've recently released, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
What do you
The
think is
public version without all the other things that went wrong they can't tell us about.
like, and other things like, what is the most important thing that you think of when you're designing games, or things of that nature that make it sound a lot more interesting if you actually know what they're talking about, and if you don't, you're just like, just show me new stuff. There's a reason why these panels are not exactly the most attended things at those conventions. So
yeah, this isn't E3. They're not going to be showing trailers for new games or expansion packs or anything like that. It's all like informative stuff.
Well,
so you've got to be into it to appreciate it.
They might, but probably not during an interview panel.
Right. That's what I meant.
E3 is kind of more showing off for people outside the industry, and the PAX things tend to be more for people inside the industry, maybe. Kind of, it's
seems like
more industry focused.
E3 seems to be more interested in shareholder, what would you call it? Shareholder management, keeping the big companies' shareholders saying, okay, we're getting our money's worth.
Come to E3, see all the cool things we're allegedly developing and spending your money on.
Yeah, and then they just pay a bunch of people to attend and cheer at everything, so that it sounds like these games are going to be a lot more popular than they actually will be.
Don't all you guys own phones? Her.
I remember when that was a good company.
I know.
Except, of course, when companies like Blizzard come up to talk about their like mobile StarCraft game, and people legitimately ask them if this is an April Fool's joke.
That was so great.
That was classic.
I mean, things have really changed. Epic used to be a good company.
That's true.
A long time ago, before they got bought by the Chinese government and started stealing data and everything else.
Yeah, I pretty much only care about EA or E3 for the Devolver Digital.
Did you say
now,
EA?
So.
Did you say EA?
Yeah,
all of the above. It still applies.
I watched the Devolver Digital thing, and that's like about the only thing from E3 that I give a dang about anymore.
I read the post-mortem because it's more interesting and less time wasted.
Well, I mean, that's basically what the Devolver Digital press conference is. It's satire about the conference that they're currently at. So, good stuff.
Ed, do you have any comment about the report that Firaxis coders drink cola instead of iced tea like they do over at Paradox? Do you want to comment? No? Okay.
Your coding department doesn't run on straight IVs of caffeine. What?
I'm lowering your expectations from the panel, so whatever they do end up talking about, you will be impressed. You're welcome, Internet. I self-thank myself.
Maybe we'll find out what the Paradox people are actually drinking, because I'm not so sure it is cola or tea.
Well, maybe it's old school 1910 Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
Or
that's
maybe it's
kind of
yeah, that would explain some things. Yes.
Or maybe they cracked open some old bottles of that Crystal Pepsi. That's no longer Crystal. Ooh.
That's objectively the best drink that was ever made. Was Crystal Pepsi.
Speaking of Coke and crystal meth.
Okay, was that segue a comment on me personally, seeing as how I'm introducing this topic? Was this was that a reference to the topic, or was that a reference to the fact that this segment is called Senate? Is this is this a political conversation now? I'm like, which way am I going with this?
Or Canis just wanted to stop us before the ESRB intervenes.
Any and all of the above.
Yes, that's just the answer. Yes.
I mean, they
already answered the question.
They sent out the what was it? This is the I forget.
So this unique, I'm just going on. All right. So this is the unique unit elimination thread. Speaking of eliminating, wait, no, we'll do that after the show. The unique unit elimination thread started by Kmart Elvis. And I thought, ooh, Elvis is now sponsored by Kmart. That's where he's been all these years. He's been at Kmart. Ah, okay.
Elvis, that would explain why nobody's seen him.
Because no one goes to Kmart.
Yeah, they put him in the back stock room, forgot he was there.
He's been the Kmart Mall Santa.
Wow. Oh, hey, little boys and girls. Well, we can scratch Kmart off the list of companies that'll sponsor this show now. You're welcome.
Not like they could afford it anyway.
I don't think they were ever on that list. Not since this show has started, anyway.
Yeah, they couldn't afford it since the show has started, yeah.
They were never not on the list. But anyway, the unique unit elimination thread started by Kmart Elvis on the 30th of July. Only strength of units and usefulness is compared. You were to vote once every 24 hours. You could add 1 point to a unit, take away 3 points from a different unit. You had to give a reason for your vote. Posts without reasons will not be counted until a reason is added. And voting for the same unit several times was not forbidden, however, to try to spread your votes around and be fair in your assessments. And I changed all of this from the active tense to the passive tense because this thread is now complete. It was felt by Elvis that it was time to do another one of these threads following the release of Gathering Storm. And the top tier unique units from actually number 8 to number 1, and I do thank Candace for giving me this topic because things are ranked and I get to name numbers. The Janissary, the Zhang, the Hatorai, probably mispronouncing that, but anyway, the Legion, the Eagle Warrior, the Warcart, the Tawa, and the Petai Archer for Nubia has been ranked as the best unique unit, and by that I mean based on their strength of their units and the usefulness is compared. So I think the idea is you're not just talking about the unit in and of itself, but in comparison to the other units as well, when of course you could only play as one civilization within a given game of Civ. And if you were really focusing on a unique unit, which one would you want on your side, or which would you not want to see in terms of your opponents?
I'm cringing a little bit because of the pronunciation of a couple of those.
I know.
Patyroi.
Patyroi, thank you. I knew I was missing a T in there. Anyway.
Although the most interesting thing is what... Oh my goodness.
Are you all right? I heard something in the background.
Sounded like a UFO just landed in Canis's home.
It's the lawnmower. Go on without me.
Oh, okay. I still want to make a reference to a certain TurnCast player, but I'll. Your ass is grass. I'm a lawnmower. You're welcome, Jonah Falcon, wherever you are. Um, but then he also put it into upper tier, above average tier, below average tier, lower tier, and bottom tier. And I'm looking at this list, and actually, my first reaction was, "What? War carts aren't first? Are you kidding me?" But then I started thinking about more of the particularness of it, which was not just, again, the strength of the units, but the usefulness is compared. I mean, you're also to take into account the range and the cost of the units and the availability and whether it can evolve from earlier units and into later units. And we know that we've talked about before on this show how certain unique units, once you upgrade them, they lose their certain abilities. And I thought, okay, I don't know, Candace, how detailed you want us to go into any one of these. We just got to focus on the top 8 here. Is it just kind of a free for all for how come this isn't higher or this isn't lower?
I was thinking anything specific we thought was notable in terms of placement, and then top tier and bottom tier general overviews.
Okay, well, I part of me wants to fault the Nubian unique unit as being first on this list because I'm like, yeah, war cart, yeah, but no. Having I had a recent game as Nubia, how useful those units were for an extended period of time as compared to the war cart, which is if you've got a neighbor right there and you can rush them, that's fantastic. But very quickly that starts to trail off in terms of its usefulness. Whereas the archer, with its speed, and because of its speed, it can get into more engagements and it can get more promotions and it can extend its usefulness. I'm like, okay, I totally understand that being first. But with the second one, with the Morai unit on there, I had to do a little research on that because I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't seen a lot of that one. But the fact that it reduces the combat strength of adjacent enemy units by 5. So it's okay. It's in one of those it's one of those things where okay, it's more about what they do to the other units as opposed to what it does itself.
It's not necessarily that the Toa is really good, but it makes all of your other units better.
And plus, that effect matters like the entire game. In addition to immediately, it's very good immediately, but it just stays good.
And timing wise, because it's just further enough along that you have time to build a couple of cities and some infrastructure so you can churn them out faster. And it comes in at a spot where you know where your neighbors are, even if they're not right next to you, you know you could go attack them. And they're strong enough against the other things that are coming around about the same time, plus that extra bit of the -5 strength, that you're going to have an easier time of going through people, and they last a really long time because you're going to almost. Then you turn them to musketmen, and they're still fun.
Yeah, and they're also a sword replacement that does not require iron.
Yes.
So that's always always good when you've got a unique unit that doesn't require the resource.
Yeah.
Particularly the recent changes where some of these unique units do require the strategic resources now and others don't. So that actually stands out even more than it used to otherwise, which is also the same for the archer and the war cart.
Yeah, and I would like to say about the Pitati Archer and the War Cart is, if I remember correctly, the War Cart is pretty expensive to build, whereas the Pitati Archers, because of Nubia's like leader and civilization abilities, is really quick and cheap to build. So you can build a lot of those archers, and will only be able to build a few War Carts with Samaria. So I think that might be also part of what elevates the archer above them, because there's so much more usefulness because you can spam them so much more.
I mean, regardless of whether you were, say, Nubia or Samaria, you could also, I mean, there are certain policies that will allow you to increase the speed of what you're producing. However, and Nubia has those additional production, plus the fact that when you're looking at the class of unit that the war carts are, they actually don't fall under that very early one that allows you to the additional production on the melee units and siege and whatever the other two ones. I'm forgetting what they are. Awful, I know, but it doesn't fall under that. So yes, you're able to get out more of them, and they're cheaper. Yes, and they don't come that. I mean, yes, okay, war carts are there from the beginning. A war cart is a fantastic scout, by the way. Even if there's nobody around or you're trying to find somebody, having one of those is a fantastic scout. Plus the fact that, hey, congratulations, +4 error score. But then if you find somebody, then it's okay. Let's take them out right now, and you don't need that many, particularly before walls. You catch them early on. You can just go right for the city. Whereas the archer themselves, the archer is good against the city, but it's also very good against the units as well. I mean, yes, you're going to need at least one melee unit to accompany those archers, but I think it almost, because it forces you to have combined arms in order to take a city, it's less, all I've got are war carts and I really need something else to continue this push. I think it just forces you to build a little bit better in terms of an early army. But my gosh, situationally stuff. I guess if we look next at the Eagle Warrior, I mean, I talked about error score. Hey, guess what? You just started the game turn 0 +4 error score because you Aircorp built one.
Which is great, unless you wanted that ancient era Dark Age, so you could get that classical era Heroic Age.
Well, and then again, in that case, it's like, well, I guess I'm just not going to explore this game because I just want to sit and hope nobody finds me so I don't get more error score. The fact that they can capture defeated enemy units, turning them into builders for the Aztecs, that is fantastic. It's a lot better than
strong.
wow.
Well, and the fact that you can use those builders to rush districts, so the builder has more utility as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that too. It is fantastic.
Yeah, they've been widely regarded as a top tier civ because of that ability for a long time.
They are, however,
All
one of those
together.
frustrating units, though, because the capturing of the builder is random. So, like, it's up to the RNG gods whether you actually get that builder or not. You can always have those games where you're killing enemy units left and right with your Eagle Warriors, but it's just not giving you the builders. That can be frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent strength is the fact that it is higher combat strength than the warrior that it replaces, and you get it from the very beginning of the game. So it's similar in that respect to the Sumerian war cart, just not as strong and, of course, not as fast.
And then you combine that with the Aztecs' abilities, where they get higher combat strength from having luxuries, and those Eagle Warriors are pretty beastly.
Number 5 on the list is the Roman Legion. And of course, as of the Gathering Storm expansion, this does require Iron to train. It does have greater combat strength. You can construct a fort with it. It can clear terrain, which consumes the build charge, although it's lost on upgrade to musketmen. This one, like I understand it is stronger. It's 40 combat strength instead of 36. It does have a higher production cost. I think this is ranked a little. I still think it's a very good unit. I think it's ranked a little high as compared to some of the other ones that are on this top tier list, but it's still very good. It's just, I mean, part of it is also, oh, but you're not the Legion from previous Civ games, which of course I know is not a fair comparison. But I don't know, maybe if forts were a better thing. I mean, they can be very good, a fortification, if you have a particular choke point. But other than that, I find it's a very situational, but still very good unique unit. I just don't consider it an excellent unique unit.
The Civ 6 map generator does make a lot of mountain ranges and a lot of choke points. So I can definitely see that, forts can be high valued. It's more of just a matter of, are those choke points occurring in positions that are strategically valuable or practical for you to fortify? So it really comes down to, same with the Toa from the Maori, is how much do you value forts? Because those two units give you forts with swordsmen, which is way earlier than when you would get it otherwise. You got to wait till the end of the Renaissance to be able to build forts normally, and then you got to have an encampment and build a military engineer. And I think part of the reason why forts aren't good in Civ 6 is because of the barrier of entry to get them. So if you value forts, then both the Toa and the Legion are very good units because they give you early access to something way earlier than everyone else gets them.
I would much rather have the Macedonian unique unit that replaces the Horseman. I'm just going to call it the H unit. I'm not going to try to Just going to call it H. It is so awesome. It is one of the 26 letters of the alphabet now. It is the H unit. Yes, it's a higher production cost, but it gives additional combat strength when adjacent to a great general. And of course, a great general is already going to give you additional combat strength. And then you get more great general points from kills, which gets you more great generals, which can allow you to field even more of these units because a great general only has so many hexes of influence. Plus, it can also be pesky when your great general gets ejected in the middle of a war, and you've got another one there that's right there. This unit also starts with a free promotion. It ignores enemy zone of control. It's one of those things where, oh, hey, I'm Macedon. You know what? I am going to construct a mounted unit.
Is the general consensus still that mounted units are the best units in the game? Or has that changed since what was it, the buffs to city defenses and nerfs to mounted units?
I never felt like mounted were
Yes.
quite at that tier.
No, I haven't felt that mounted units have been the best in terms of units since Civilization 4. In Civilization 6, I think they're excellent pillagers, and they can be good at picking off particular units. And maybe it's a different experience in a multiplayer circumstance where you're playing with a human, but against the artificial intelligence, give me a melee unique unit over a mounted one most of the time. However, in this case, because of all of the combination of things that you get with a great general, which I hope you're probably pushing to generate anyway, and you can get that early with early encampments, plus that early policy that can give you great general points. And if you're thinking about building an army, then you must have something that you can go for. So the fact that these units can use great generals, which helps you get more great generals, and it improves their ability even further and gaining the promotions, etc. I think it works really well in that case. But no, I would generally prefer a melee one. But this is one of those exceptions, and I understand it being top tier. I'm just not often Macedon. I ban him in my games, and I don't get it very often. But when I do, I'd be all over this.
I guess, yeah, it's a horseman upgrade and not a knight upgrade.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
Yes. I mean, of course, they can be upgraded into knights, and that's also good, which extends their livelihood.
Well, no, I think it would upgrade to the courser now, because it's a light cavalry unit, isn't it?
The horseman?
Yeah.
If it's a horseman, then yes, it would go to coursers.
Oh, yeah, yes. Number 7 on the list is the Jong from Indonesia. Of course, it replaces the frigate and is unlocked with mercenary as a civic as opposed to a tech. Yes, there's the higher production cost, but it's minimal. It's got higher movement. It's 5 versus 4. You get them in formation. It gets +5 combat strength and shares its movement with all units in the formation and no strategic resource requirement. I mean, frigates themselves are fantastic on the seas. And once you get to that point, it's, if I have stuff on the coast or I can bombard stuff from the coast, at least frigates are absolutely fantastic to have. And this one is even better because of that higher movement and that greater combat strength, which will then increase the likelihood that it is going to be able to get those victories against the cities, against units, more promotions, more great generals. And if you've also got any land units in formation with it, it can take advantage of that fast movement, which is also increasing its combat strength, which is fantastic. Number 8 on the list is Janissaries, and I hear Janissaries, and of course I think about the Ottomans, and I start thinking of Europa Universalis more, even though I've never played the game. I don't know why that is, but
something kebab.
Yeah,
Their reputation in that game is well deserved. They are very difficult to deal with unless you're experienced.
At least they have Janissary Decadence.
Yeah, which never. Let's not go into it. It's not meaningful, but
it replaces the musketman and requires 10 Niter to train, but it does start with a free promotion. It has higher combat strength. It even has lower production cost. Can only be trained in cities with a population of 2 or more is not a particular concern. If you have a lot of cities that have less than a population of 2, well, you've got greater problems than not being able to construct a Janissary.
Yeah, at that point in the game, even cities that you just captured are going to have more than 2 population.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that it stops you from doing is like plopping a new city on the coast of another continent and then using that to spam out, Janissaries.
And of course, because it replaces a musketman, you could have yourself lined up with some swordsmen getting ready to upgrade once you get gunpowder. And then there's the policy that will reduce the strategic resource requirement as well as the gold cost. And even if you don't have that, the fact that you can construct Janissaries considerably cheaper and they have all of these pluses on top of it, if you are the Ottomans and you are not using this unit, you are missing out.
Well, in general, if you're any civ and you're not using their unique unit, you're missing out. But especially true for this one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just maybe we'll move on to the upper tier and then see if there are any comments about any of them particularly. I just wanted to go in detail in terms of the top 8. In terms of the upper tier from 9 to 16, we've got the Spanish Conquistador, the Indian Varu, the Brazilian Minas Gerais. I know I'm mispronouncing something somewhere along here.
The Brazilian pain in the rears.
The Australian Digger, the Persian Immortal, the Macedonian I'm going to say something I don't want to say.
Hippopotamus.
Hippopotamus, the Macedonian hippopotamus.
No, the hippopotamus.
Hippopotamus. The Incan Warak. I'm just going to go with that. And the Arabian Mamluk. And this is going to sound awful, but I read, I know the Conquistador, but it's Spain. I know that's not.
I'm just. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Canus. That's all I was going to say about the Conquistador for the moment.
I'm just noticing how, in the top 10, there's a surprising number of base game civs compared to what we're expecting to see, where all the DLC civs are there and all the expansion civs are there. But in the top 8, there are 3 base game civs, which is a pretty good ratio considering how the base game civs tend to be the least powerful.
Are you counting the Aztecs as a base game civ?
Yeah, they're a free DLC, so they count as base game.
Yeah, they were there at the start and they were free, so yeah, they definitely don't fit the pay to win mold.
Oh, I thought you had to have like the deluxe edition or whatever to get the Aztecs.
If you had the deluxe edition or if you
pre-edition,
pre-ordered,
yeah.
you got them 3 months early, but that was it.
Oh, okay.
If you buy the game now, you get Aztecs free.
Yeah, I actually have not played as any of these units in the upper tier except for the Digger, and I have to say I wasn't particularly impressed with the Digger when I played as them, because it was very situational.
Honestly, out of the upper tier, I think the one, well, I shouldn't say the one, the 2 that I think are the most worthwhile mentioning are the Indian Varu, and Mackie already referred to the Brazilian unique battleship. Oh, man.
I refer to them as a pain in the ass for a reason.
It's their early arrival for the Civic Tree. That's just, it's one of those things where in our multiplayer games in TurnCast, it's I just met Brazil. Oh, it's okay. We're only playing Pangea.
Oh, thank goodness we're on a Pangea. I can beat them the normal way instead of going, oh crap, I need battleships to beat these things.
It's freaking brutal because they come earlier and they also have higher combat strength and range strength on top of it. And it's because of that earlier time that Brazil is able to construct them or upgrade into them, and then they've got that much time in terms of being on the seas and ruling it. And even if you have a fleet of battleships, because of they're earlier and they can get more promotions and they have greater range strength, whether they're going after your cities, whether it's directly on the coast or not, with their 3 range, and that's that other thing, of course, the extended to the 3 range of the battleship. They're going after your naval units, they're bombarding your cities. It is brutal, and because of that, Brazil becomes an early target in my mind. In a single player game or even in a multiplayer game, we got to keep Brazil in check. I don't know why, the fact that this is listed as upper tier as opposed to not being top tier is perhaps because, for the most part, when you're in combat in Civilization 6, it's going to be on land, and it's also not like an ancient or a classical era unit. But I guess I'm happy that it is as high on the list as it is. I kind of feel like maybe it should be number 9 on that list at the top of the upper tier, because that thing is brutal.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised to see
the reason
any...
it's lower, in my opinion, is twofold. One, it comes later in the game, and two, it is at least to an extent map/situation dependent. Whereas some of these other units are either almost always useful or always useful.
Yeah, I was surprised to see any naval units make either of the top 2 tiers, honestly.
I'm not surprised you'd have naval units in upper tier. I was pleasantly surprised to see the Zhong up there in the top tier, though, because it is a good unit. It's nice when I have got to play as Indonesia. It's a nice one to have.
Yeah, and one of the annoying things about naval units in particular is when you've got a good naval unit and you're playing against the AI, sometimes the AI just never builds navies. So you've got this great unit and you just never get to use it, which is probably why both of these 2 units are in the ranged, frigate class, because, well, all right, you don't have any naval units, but you do have cities within 3 tiles of the coast. So I'm using these units.
I'm using these units, and I'm going to offload my really fast cavalry or like coursers or something. Oops, was that your city I just took?
Yeah, particularly with the AI, as you're saying, Jason, they don't build navies, or if they do, it's underwhelming, or they built it really early on and they don't maintain that. They don't continue to build them. They don't upgrade them. They get squished very easily. And then if you're thinking, oh, that's okay, I'll just have my crossbowmen or I'll have my cities bombard. Actually, no, you won't, because they can sit 3 hexes out. And what is your opposition to them, really? AI, you're in serious trouble. I mean, that's with battleships in general, but it just happens that much more quickly. And that's the result, I think, more frequently with Brazil.
Yeah, unless the English or Norway are in the game, like, I swear I see more barbarian caravels than AI naval units combined.
Honestly, yeah, both caravels and frigates, and the AI does build it. They build an early quadrireme and galley mix, and they never bother upgrading them.
And then they get killed by the barbarian caravels, and then you never see an AI naval unit the rest of the game.
Yeah.
AI Navy game's still not strong. Better, but still not strong.
I do currently have a game against the AIs going on where Phoenicia just has a butt ton of naval units floating around. So there's always exceptions.
And as for my saying about mentioning the Varu, part of it is, but you're not like war elephants or any elephant-based unit in Civilization 4. But the thing about the Varu is, like, what was it on the top tiered list? The
the same reducing unit strength.
Yes,
so,
that
like,
Phil
it just
knew exactly
stays good.
yeah, Phil knew exactly what I was going for with that respect. So that makes it notable.
Expensive, though.
It's true, but I kind of feel like that when they are that expensive, but the fact that they're able to reduce the combat strength of the other is almost offsetting having another one of those units, because it's, you don't have to try to fight 2 of my units. You've only got 1 to fight, but it's reducing your ability to attack the unit. But yes, at the same time, it's, if you're able to surround and pound the Varu, I think you need to be careful about where you're deciding to use this particular unit in order to protect it, because you're probably not going to have as many, because they are expensive and they don't upgrade till tanks. So
yeah, it's a melee unit, so you want to probably have some good ranged units trying to pummel its HP down. But yeah, it's a nasty unit when you do build it. You gotta put in some extra time in production to get those out on the field.
Now, Jason, you had mentioned that you were underwhelmed by the digger. Why? Why is that?
If I recall correctly, all of the Digger's bonuses were associated with combat on the coast or embarking. So it's just one of those things where it's very map dependent. Same thing with the Brazilian unit. If you're playing on Pangea, you're just never going to get much, if any, benefit from the Digger. So it's good when you get those bonuses, but I wasn't sure if that justified it being upper tier because it's so map and situation dependent. Also, there was a bug, I think, when Australia first came out where the Digger just flat out did not get its bonuses. I'm pretty sure that has been fixed. But that was also a huge deterrent when I played them first, because I'm like, this bonus just isn't working.
Yeah, the digger does get additional combat strength on coastal tiles, plus 5 combat strength outside of Australian territory. So you compare that with the infantry that it replaces, it already has a base strength of 72. Now you're going to give it 77 versus 70. It's something, but if you're fighting other infantry and units of the same class, it's kind of one of those, well, did you get a digger because you upgraded into it from a musketman? I mean, it also gets additional combat strength versus anti-cavalry units, but when is that ever a particular concern, really? Certainly not against the AI.
I guess one of the problems that I have with any like modern era unique unit is that at that point in the game, like there's so many different types of units in the field that it's any one unit kind of just gets I feel like buried. Like you've got at this point in the game you're going to have artillery shooting at you, you're going to have if you're on the coast you've got battleships shooting at you, you probably got planes strafing you from overhead. So in the earlier parts of the game you got a good melee unit, like you're fighting other melee units, so you're getting that bonus. Whereas by the time you get to modern era and you've got like infantry and the digger, like okay, maybe I am getting a +5 combat strength in enemy territory, but I'm getting bombarded 5 times from 5 different units, and it's never feeling as strong as it probably could be. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think so. And as for the Conquistador, okay, I get it. With if you're going for a religious victory or otherwise you're relying on religion heavily, okay, I guess I can see the Conquistador there. I generally ignore religion in Civilization 6, so I'm probably not giving its due in that respect. But I'm trying to evaluate it just based on the unit itself, because as the thread said, you're only the strength of the unit and the usefulness is compared. And I'm like, but the rest of it is Spain. Anything else from upper tier? No? All right. Above average tier, we've got the Black Army for Hungary, the Russian Cossack, the Viking Longship for Norway, I was going to say the Victorian, well, that is also specifically true, but more generally, I'll just say the English Redcoat, the Polish Winged Hussar, the Barbary Corsair for the Ottomans, the Netherlands Unique Unit, yeah, you saw what I did there, and the Mende Decalou Cavalry. I know I slightly mispronounced that, but it was a lot better than I was going to do with the Netherlands. So does that de Zeven Provinciën?
If it helps, Dan, I think that translates to the 7th Provincial or something like that. So
I think it's the 7 Kingdoms.
Oh.
Because I know that's a big thing in Dutch history.
I've been playing as Hungary lately, and I do very much like the Black Army. The strategy of levying city-states to just pump up your envoys with them, and then getting those adjacency bonuses is really, really strong. I especially love when I would levy a city-state and I get just free catapults or bombards, and they've got extra combat strength and +2 movement, so they can move into range of the city and then shoot. No great general needed.
Fair enough. I guess it's with the Black Army and even with the Russian Cossack, I'm just kind of like, oh, right, you're a mounted replacement.
Yeah, light cavalry.
Cossacks can be kind of a pain in the rear, too.
Yeah, Cossacks are really good because of their attack and move. Like that's not a thing that's around in Civ 6 typically anymore.
Yeah, not without promotions anyway, like on the ranged units.
Yeah.
And even then, I think it's only the recon units that have that.
Yeah, it's no longer a common ability, and it's a really strong ability. So I can see why one would rate the Cossacks well in this environment, because you can. It's a major force multiplier. You can attack with far more units per turn with Cossacks than you could with ordinary cavalry in many situations.
I totally get the Viking longship being above average tier, and I know we talked about it can be situation dependent if you don't have a lot of water, which is probably why it's not higher on the list. But it's higher combat strength. It can pillage adjacent land tiles and capture civilian units, and it has 4 movement while in coastal waters. Man, that could be
That early
Oof.
pillage, that is a big deal, because that's good for taking out coastal districts and improvements, and it's also great for barbarian hunting. You don't have to send a land unit out and embark it. You just send your longship out and knock out barbarian outposts that are along the coast for free gold and free era score. So
Norway also still gets, yields from their pillaging, unlike everybody else, so that helps them a lot.
Yeah, with a longship, it's about the damage you can do to somebody else through the pillaging as much as it is their ability to take cities and, of course, destroy other units in the water.
yeah, I don't use my longships to fight other naval units. I use my longships to knock out infrastructure.
And they're also very good at scouting. You stick along the coast and, oh, hi there. And they're early on enough, it's like, okay, I need to construct more of these. And so, yeah, you saw the one longship on your shore. Don't you worry, there'll be a few more arriving soon.
Soon.
So that makes sense. The Redcoat. First off, Redcoats, welcome back to the Civ series. We hadn't seen you since Civ 4. How you doing? They do require Niter now, as of the Gathering Storm expansion. You do get additional combat strength when fighting on a continent other than the English capitals. There's no cost to disembark, and they also have additional combat strength versus anti-cavalry units. So as long
all melee get that.
Yeah, fair enough. But as long as you are fighting on a continent other than the English capital, and no, this is not but hang on, I'm on a separate landmass, so it's a separate continent, right? Well, you better have a look at the map first and the little overlay there to make sure that it's in fact a different continent. But other than that little quirk, they're fantastic. They're very good. They're fantastic. I get why they're where they are on this list.
Except, of course, it feels like England and all of its uniques change every 5 minutes, so that's prone to change.
So what you're saying is the English are adaptable, Jason. Oh, there you go. They embrace change.
We can put it that way. I'm just saying, it feels like every patch that comes out, like England has a new ability and their unique completely changed. So
I want to make comments, but not PolyCast.
No PolyCast, please.
No PolyCast happening. Oh. Anyway.
But it's fun. It is fun to troll.
The Winged Hussar, man, pushing back enemies if it does more damage than it does when attacking. We're so good for defense in that respect. I'm not saying they're not good for offense too, but it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you think you're on my border? You're right against my city? No, I don't think so. It's like, wait, I just took damage and you pushed me back. I love that ability. I mean, that was first in Civ 5, right? They could do that in Civ 5 as well. And it was nice to see it back in Civ 6. And so for that, just that itself, it's almost like the troll unit. I find it very trolly, but in a good way. You struck fear into the units, and it pushed them back after a successful attack.
Sure, we'll go with that it struck fear rather than it just struck them.
Well, you strike somebody, you are striking fear into them, even if it's just fleeting. You took them by surprise, maybe.
It's not necessarily true.
No, not necessarily true, but it's not necessarily not true.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well.
See how it is.
So I was thinking, oh, I should have been absent for this episode. Dan's back. Why?
Yeah, I can appreciate some good trolling. Definitely not. I regret nothing, as usual.
As for the Barbary Corsair, it's not that I dislike them. It's just you're kind of overshadowed by the Janissary. I'm sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
I like privateers. I will probably very much enjoy the Barbary Corsair once I get around to playing as the Autumn.
Okay, for the Netherlands, I think we were saying the translation was the Seven Kingdoms, the Seven Somethings, another frigate replacement, and frigates themselves being very good. Again, presuming you've got a map for it, so I understand them being on this particular list. It does have a higher combat strength and range strength, and it does receive a attack bonus when attacking defensible districts. So it's one of those, I'm not going to play the Netherlands because they're there, but if I'm playing the Netherlands, I will play them because they're... Let me rephrase what it is I'm trying to say. I just realized I'm repeating myself. Oops. It's not, I want to play the Netherlands because they're there, but if I'm playing the Netherlands, I'm happy that they are. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to choose a different civ, choose the Netherlands instead of another civ because they're there. But
Yeah.
they're good, and they're definitely above average. So the fact that they're on the above average tier makes sense to me. It's just kind of one of those, again, very map situational dependent. Like, how often are you going to be able to use this? And it's one of those things where, hey, look at this. We're on a map that's got lots and lots of water. Ah, crap! All the AI settled like 3 hexes in or more. Oh, are you kidding? Why?
Because they can.
And because it was a Pangea.
And then we've got the Makahlua. How close was I to that pronunciation?
Very
Closer than some
close.
other ones. Closer than some other ones. Very. And anyway.
Certainly less bad.
So the unique unit for the Mali, it is a knight replacement. I mean, yes, there's higher combat strength, but that's very negligible. Prevents friendly traders within 4 tiles from being plundered as long as they are on a land tile. Provides gold equal to 100% of the base combat strength of each defeated enemy unit. Is my favorite part of that because of just how awesome gold is in this game into translating into almost anything you want to do.
I killed a 40 strength knight. I now have 40 more gold. Yawn. Sorry.
I mean, in and of itself, yeah, your one successful combat is not going to make you rich, but you know, it's just nice that it also pays for itself, and not just in combat, but it actually generates some gold for you.
And we do not need to go over the rest of these units because they're all below average.
Okay, I was about to say,
Yeah.
that was the first half of the list. Those were the good things on the list.
Unless
Although
anyone sees anything on there that they feel are maybe underappreciated or undervalued.
Not really.
no, it's and I compare it to some previous Civ games. I sometimes think, oh, Samurai, oh, Keshik, oh, Impy, why?
Well,
What-
Egypt's tier archers can qualify as a pain in the ass, but they're probably in the right tier. I mean, they're good at a certain point, but then later, meh.
They're good in the early game, which is the best certain point to be good.
But they don't upgrade well.
Who cares? They're good immediately. It's all about the short-term gratification.
Yeah, I'd say that the Sokka horse archer can be a pain to deal with, but that has more to do with Scythia's abilities than the unit itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sokka Horse Archer on the bottom tier, 42nd out of 48 on this list. That's more about them just, oh, wait, there's 2 of you instead of 1. Ah,
What did they
crap.
upgrade into?
And they heal whenever they kill an enemy unit.
I think they upgrade
of,
into horsemen.
Okay, yeah, that's why they're bad then. It's been
Uh,
a while since I'd played them.
checking.
If they upgraded down the archery path, they would actually be a good unit.
Yeah, no. Oh, instead of crossbow, they upgrade to field cannon.
The Sokka horse archers do?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think they're considered a ranged unit. I think they get the ranged promotions.
Okay, in that case, they're not bad. I wouldn't put them that low.
Except for not getting an upgrade until field cannons.
Yeah, but they're mobile, and they have the same, like, once you have 2-shot promotion on them, you can hit with them and then move out of the way and hit with other things too. So they're going to be free hits into the medieval era.
And could pay for themselves as pillagers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
the
lot of
only
utility
unit-
there. They're not top tier, but they don't belong down there.
Yeah, that's the only unit that I saw in the lower list that I thought, I don't know about that.
Good eye, Jason. They're good eye, and in addition to them being so good themselves, again with Scythia's ability to train 2 of them at a time. Yeah, if they've only got one range attack. Well, that's okay. As Phil said, you attack with one, and then you move in the next.
Spam.
Exactly
Even if
right.
taking damage, they heal. I don't remember if it's 50 or if they nerfed it to 30, but they heal hit points every time they kill a unit, and that's all Scythian units. So whether you're healing the Sokka horse archers or you're using the horse archers to lower the HP of an enemy unit so that another unit can attack it and heal, your army is like almost always at full strength.
Yeah, you heal up to 30 points after killing a unit, so it just allows them to keep going. They're like they can be the Energizer Bunny of unique units. Keeps going and going and going. Like, see, I already got Kmart to not sponsor the show. I'm trying to get Energizer to sponsor the show instead to make up for it.
Yeah.
Because we keep going and going and going.
Speaking of which.
That's what I think of your joke.
You thought it was so good that it should end the segment because that should be the last thing people remember. Why, thank you, Canus. I appreciate that support. I don't know. Speaking of support,
people still support Alpha Centauri 20 years after launch as being probably the best 4X game in space.
That's actually quite the claim, because if you're there haven't been as many great space games recently, but throughout gaming history, there's been quite a few good ones. So I don't know about this.
Yeah, I read through this. I see where the author is coming from on the terms of the experience of it is probably one of the story experience of it is probably one of the better ones. We all remember Yang and Deirdre, the faction leaders, very strongly. Whereas when you get into Civ and you have 20 different Civs, and unless somebody really stands out, you don't remember them. And it's like that when you play other things like Endless Space. Like the newer Endless Space 2, has a bit more of the story thing that makes me think of Alpha Centauri. But still not quite there. There's Age of Wonders Planetfall that I've watched live streams of people playing. That's a little bit closer. It's probably partly because it's on more of a normal on the ground map as opposed to Endless Space being all out in the main space. You're not dealing with planet level stuff necessarily. But it has stronger personalities as the faction leaders. And when you go through its different types of tech and civics trees, they have that quotes type of thing from fictional background characters that's more like Alpha Centauri. So
I know, and it totally made sense to me why Candace gave Mackie this topic introduced, because she is our resident smack expert and always has been, because she's played it more, I think, than maybe even the rest of us on this panel combined.
I played it a fair amount, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much Mackie played it.
Quite a bit. But there's people who have played even tons more than I have. So,
well, apparently
that's true in
still
anything.
Playing it, so
there's people with more than double my hours in EU4, and I have 6,000 hours in EU4. So yeah, there's probably someone out there who's
and
played
they probably
it more than
think Phil's amateur for only 6,000. What? You're not 5-digit level yet?
Well,
That's the thing there, right? There are probably some people listening saying, "How come we don't know how many hours you played? Just go and check your Steam stats."
Yeah,
you see,
kids.
kids.
This game came out in 1999, and there was no Steam.
Back when we were smart not to document how many hours we played a game.
There are sometimes
Yeah,
I look at it,
true
it's like,
that.
did I need to know how many hours I spent playing? Probably better I don't know.
You mean
Spe-
you don't put that on your resumes when you apply for jobs? I thought for sure.
I'm putting this on my resume. I don't have to call in sick. You'll know why I'm not here.
This is why I need 4 weeks of paid vacation, dang it.
It took me over 100 hours of playing Skyrim to finally get around to killing Alduin.
Only 100.
Yeah, well, it was over 100, but I don't know, it's like 130 something.
And Skyrim is one of those games where your employer might the interviewer might say only 100. I don't know if we can hire you.
Yeah, I'm not
You
seeing
just
much
play enough
commitment
Skyrim.
here.
Oh, sorry, I haven't gotten to the 200 mark I have with 2 of the Mass Effect games. What do I have on New? No, I don't need to go look up what I have on New Vegas.
Oh dear.
That's anyway, but there are still things that Alpha Centauri did. Like I was giving an example of how it creates a story behind the gameplay and draws you into that story, told through little snippets in the log things and the responses that the characters will give to you. And another point that he was making is that the leaders, in a sense, are somewhat predictable. You know what their agenda is. Although there is a way to set up in the game, you can mix their agendas up. You could actually have a tree worshiping Yang if the game decided to really mix it up. You could get some variety in that, so they weren't so predictable. But part of the strength of their characters is the fact the Gaians are going to get ticked if you start abusing Planet, and that Yang won't be happy unless you're a dictatorship. And you don't quite have that level of flavor in other modern 4X type things.
I am really surprised that there has not been like an HD remaster of Alpha Centauri yet, or at least I haven't seen one.
They were on that path kind of with Beyond Earth, but that didn't go out quite the way they planned.
No, I mean just a flat out like remaster of the original game.
I think that has to do with rights,
yeah,
because
it probably does. It's
I think EA actually owns the rights, even though it was created by
God.
people.
Yes, they do. They still own the
there's
rights.
definitely a market for that sort of thing, because there's been HD remasters for like Age of Empires and Command and Conquer. So, I mean, EA's sitting on a gold mine with this property, and I cannot believe they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, as many people that still love it, still play it. Another thing that this game did that still don't let you do in 4X games, a lot of things, is terraforming. I mean, there's in fantasy-based games that let you have terraforming, but anything that's more real world, air quote, no. Unless you get to a super late game, you didn't get terraforming. I think Call to Power let you do a little bit near the end game and go into actual space and have like Moon Colony or something. But yeah.
If you're talking baseline civilization, I think the last time we saw that was what, Civ 2, where you could terraform.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, of course, very late game, because that would be a very late game thing that you'd be able to quote unquote realistically do. I feel like the other thing that Alpha Centauri did well, from the little that I played it, and also what I did not see in Civilization Beyond Earth, because I was kind of hoping with Civilization Beyond Earth that it would make me want to play Alpha Centauri again. And the article touched upon it very briefly, but in addition to the factions, and this is, you can talk about Alpha Centauri without comparing it to Beyond Earth at all, and the factions in Beyond Earth were okay, but then when you compare them to Alpha Centauri, they're not even okay anymore. The thing that I think also stands out, that I think is, again, not really touched upon as much in this article as it should be, is that Planet itself is a character. Particularly when you look at Civilization Beyond Earth, the aliens are so very quickly not a problem. And if you do that in Alpha Centauri, you're well, I guess you're going to start many games, because you're not going to live very long.
Planet has a mind of its own. It will do the outgrowths and does its fungal bloom burst. And the further you get in the tech tree and the further you get close to really being able to get in tune with the mind of Planet, it still does that. It starts reacting strongly. It's like, whoa, what is this? You're an infestation. Get off me.
You have to say that Civ 6 has started going a little bit in that direction with the environmental and disaster and global warming mechanics of Gathering Storm.
You can legitimately get in a war with somebody because they're polluting too much and they're drowning your people.
and just that the planet reacts, to
Yeah.
your activities. So even in Civ 6, the planet feels more like a character than it did in Beyond Earth, and that was supposed to be part of the point of Beyond Earth. And they flopped
Yeah.
in that regard.
They probably didn't want to copy the idea of there being some sort of overmind controlling the planet, but it sometimes felt more like generic planet with weird alien stuff than I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
probably had
That's
to
pretty
walk
much
a
what
very
it
fine
was.
line because
Yes.
they probably could have opened themselves up to lawsuits if they did something
Yes.
that close to Alpha Centauri.
But yes, certainly it felt, and Beyond Earth, that the planet you landed on didn't have the character. The aliens had the character, but the character of the aliens faltered as compared to planet, and even in and of itself. In Civilization Beyond Earth, it was, well, you're pretty well guaranteed just kill all the aliens, and then the aliens are no longer a problem, and you don't think about it anymore. They go away like the barbarians eventually,
Yeah,
mostly in
not
Civilization. They're
not
supposed to be there for the entire time.
yeah, not like that in Alpha Centauri, which is like even when you were further down the tech tree, when you're getting that late game and planets having soul outburst, it could still be a problem because it would spawn like the highest level versions of units. And even if you had the psytrance stuff that was supposed to help against anything that was mind bending, it could still eat your face. Wow, it sounds like a new genre of music, psytrance.
What?
Also, just the acknowledgement meant, what, it's been 20 years since Alpha Centauri was released? Oh, man.
Hey,
Yeah.
kids.
There was this other millennium before this one. It started with a 19 instead of a 20, and
Don't remind me. It's been so long.
EA HD remaster of Alpha Centauri. Come on, get on it.
Now
even
on
just a
Blue-
version that would even just a version that would cooperate with regular widescreen, because I've had trouble on different computers trying to get the fan patches to make it work.
Also available on Blu-ray. What?
I thought it was on Betamax.
Oh man, another example of where marketing wins over superior technology. But anyway,
So, according to Civ Fanatics, I do not know if this survey is still going on. It doesn't say that it's stopped, but
it has stopped.
It has stopped. Okay.
It has stopped. It is no longer accepting responses.
There was an official survey for Civ 6 by 2K, which basically was a fishing expedition to see whether or not people would accept a Paradox type DLC model. Because it asked for the basic stuff that you always ask about. What games do you own? What types of games do you play? Which one's your favorite? And then it gave a list of like 15 to 30 questions that were all different iterations of monthly, weekly, half year, or annually.
Yeah.
Patches, new content, new DLCs, new everything. And it would put all these things together in different orientations, trying to trick you into figuring out which version you actually preferred, whether you wanted little stuff frequently or big stuff infrequently.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it had you rank. It was on the premise that you would be willing to pay for any of these things. It's just which would you be more willing to pay for on the frequency that Canus just said. And one of the ones that jumped out at me, I am certain at one point I saw as part of a DLC model new mechanics, like just mechanics in and of itself.
Yeah, new mechanics weekly.
And I went, wait a minute. No.
New mechanics full stop, whether it was free or not in weekly, is no.
I feel like even the
That would be
annual
impressive.
release model is problematic. And as a callback to the earlier topic, I kind of feel like that's part of the reason we didn't get a world builder earlier, because they had to, I'm sure that had more to do with the publisher's, release schedule than, with anything else going on, because the 2K is probably like, no, you got to release an expansion every year. And, because they had to work on full expansions, they didn't have time to put in a world builder until, after the second expansion hit.
And we don't have time right now because we have to make an expansion, and you probably want these to be a bit more user friendly than what we use around the office.
All right, guys, what new mechanic are we using this week?
Oh,
And it's frustrating because I actually had I posted a video recently comparing City Skylines expansion model to Civilizations, and I use Civilization as a positive example of, look, these guys make whole expansion packs that change the entire game. They're not just adding a new feature here and there, and whether or not it fits in with the rest of the game, be damned. So I really do not want to see Civilization fall into that kind of release model where they're just constantly putting in new little things, and maybe it breaks the game, maybe it doesn't, who knows. Is old stuff going to become obsolete and nobody uses it anymore? It's so terrible. Like, what they're doing now is fine. I could even say go 2 years between expansion packs and put more in it, make them better, test them a little bit more thoroughly. No, don't add one mechanic every month. That's not the way to go.
We've definitely seen a different approach to new content for a Civ title in Civilization 6, where Civ 6 is closer to, say, a Civilization 4 than Civilization 5 was. Because, yes, we got 2 expansion packs for Civilization 5, but there was all these other DLC packs in between, scattered throughout. We've not really seen as much of that with regards to Civ 6. And now this survey set up the premise that, by the way, there is going to be DLC, downloadable content, i.e. not necessarily expansion packs. So what do you want in the DLC? And based on the responses in this thread, depending upon what you put, I think, Canus, you had it in your introduction as well, that you didn't always get the same combination of questions in the same order as everybody else, because it was trying to fine-tune, okay, what would you be willing to pay for weekly then, if you're not willing to pay for this weekly? How about this? How about that? How about this? How about that? While changing the order of the other things too. And I thought, does this survey have an end? Does it just say, take my money? I don't know.
Survey says, please tell us the thing you would pay for weekly so we can have a cash cow, please.
Yeah, let me put it this way, 2K. Yeah. I was loving Stellaris, and I stopped playing it because Paradox kept changing stuff. And the new changes weren't compatible with old save files, so I literally had to restart a game like every other week because a new patch would break my old saves. Oof. And I just did not like the mechanical changes. I stopped playing that game because Paradox was doing this stuff. So please don't do it to Civ.
I mean, the survey, if I recall, it made no reference to, first off, how long the survey was going to be. And so it was the beginning of this month in August that it was available. And it looks like it was available for a couple of weeks and no more. And 2K also didn't say, oh, we'll follow up, or we'll probably never hear anything about this publicly, about the results. We'll just kind of see the results when Civilization goes forward, whether it's Civ 6, Civ 7, aka Humankind, kidding,
when
or
Civ
whatever.
7 launches with loot boxes.
There were no
then we
loot
definitely
box
know
questions.
the results of that survey.
There were no loot box questions. Let's not gaslight the crew.
That's true.
Okay.
Fortunately, there was not that. No.
Okay, good, because that was gonna be like, what?
They haven't figured out how to work it into a turn-based strategy model yet, but don't worry, they'll find a way.
Eventually, unfortunately.
I mean, if you guys want to release weekly, DLC that changes the leader's uniform, fine. If that's your thing, you go for it.
Cosmetic changes, sure. Give us a release at Halloween that everything looks spooky for a month or something. But no, actual gameplay changes, rule changes, hell no.
No, must have a new mechanic every week.
Okay.
You don't kill a unit every turn, your units turn into pumpkins.
Don't be like some games that do those special promotion things at seasons and then take away the content after it's over. Give us the tick box that says, hey, can we play like it's Halloween all the time?
Yes.
Because that can't hurt anything. It's just a single tick box. You already did the work. Might as well keep it.
Yes, we would like to purchase to own the DLC, not to lease it.
Not purchase to lease it or license it.
Games of service, guys. Let's do games of service.
How cute, thanks, Dan. You think you own the things you buy. So silly.
Oh.
Something, sweet summer child.
Oh, Jason obviously didn't read his contract when he joined PolyCast. Oh, don't tell him. No, don't point it out to anyone. No, won't tell him. What?
Uh-huh.
So you're reminding me of the Google thing where they want you to stream all your games.
Well, that's where the industry's moving. They'll get there eventually.
I hope that the doormat market doesn't sink that low.
I hope not.
That
too.
low.
Well, consumers already engage in flagrant anti-consumer practices fairly routinely. But as of so far, they haven't quite sunk that low yet. So we'll see.
They keep inching closer, though.
Yeah,
They're trying.
yeah, I'm sure. And then they can just screw you over like YouTube does.
Wow, that would get it ranked even lower than the P51 Mustang on the
Whoops.
last thread.
Yeah.
That was not intentional.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Phil,
Whoops.
go. Run with it.
No.
No words on it.
I pushed the button during the pause, and then there wasn't a pause anymore. I was like, uh-oh.
Whoops. What? Live stream fails.
Live stream fails indeed.
Oh no, what's going to happen is between this episode and the next episode, the regular co-hosts are going to work on their hand signals, and then it'll be fine after that.
Yeah, see, but that would require us to actually use video, which is never happening.
Back
What are
to
you talking
Skype.
about? We're using video now.
Technically.
I was expecting someone to say, Dan, we've been using hand signals for a while. When you were around, you just didn't know. Oh, I see how it is.
Well, that too.
Fantastic.
Well, it stopped again. Why did it do that?
It's like how you play
Also,
that. when somebody
polytest
starts
tradition,
something.
technical difficulties.
Let's try
I was
this
going to say
again.
in multiplayer, you can unend your
Dan.
You can unend the closing. It's fine.
When I was your age.
Maggie,
That's
Phil, this is fun. Go ahead, Phil.
No.
Why did it
This will
stop
never-
again? What?
This will never, ever end
Oh.
because my name's on another page.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, fine. Thank you for joining us for PolyCast episode 344. I am the TheMeInTeam, and today I was joined by CanusAlbinus,
Why is it not working? Ah!
Makahlua,
I don't know why. I do know I need caffeine again.
MegaBearsFan,
No game publishers. I am not a whale.
and guest co-host Dan Q.
To the moon and back. Or Alpha Centauri, whichever is closer.
Moon is
So
closer
you
to
are
Alpha
moving
Centauri.
back.
No, Phil.
Sadly,
Yes,
that is-
no, Phil. Good
that
thing.
is our-
Yes, no,
Some things
Phil.
never change.
We're gonna go with the yes now.
Yes.
Okay.
Civilization 4, 5, Beyond Earth, and 6 content copyrights Spraxis and Take-Two Interactive. Copyright the PolyCast at thepolycast.net.